It's Monday morning here in Lagos. Good morning, everyone. It's less than 48 hours to the new year. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Welcome to the show. And it looks like the hustling and bustling has kick-started yet again in earnest for the big one, the celebration of the new year. That's on Wednesday. But come to think of it, how time flies. They say, when was it we said Happy New Year in 2019? And right here, we're counting down to the end of another year. Someone said it's because a lot happened and we got carried away. Remember that 2019 began in Nigeria in earnest, preparing for the big one, the general election, which was postponed by a week, followed by the tribunal brouhaha and all of the reactions that trailed that particular exercise. Then came Big Brother Nigeria, the one that took your night away. There was the Anthony Joshua defeat and historic comeback. I'm sure you also followed the R. Kelly's scandal on cable news. What else made the news in the year? Of course, President Trump's tweet also took some of our time. So when you were busy scrolling through the timelines on Instagram and Facebook, especially those stories that did not concern you, then December. So a lot happened during the year, and we're told that because of the increasing access to technology in the name of social media, you were not only aware of these activities, you also got involved. And we'll be turning our attention to those big stories that shaped the year 2019. No better place to start than politics. I'm joined this morning by two honorable members. One of them is former member representing Ekpe constituency, that's tongue twisted. Lagos House of Assembly, former chairman, Committee on Health Services, Honorable Segun Olulade. Thank you for finding time to come.
Thank you for having me.
And
compliment
of the season to you as well. Member House of Representatives representing Ibeju Lekki Federal Constituency. He used to be chairman of that local government and immediate past chairman, commissioner rather, in the Lagos State House of Assembly Service Commission, Honorable Bayo Balogun. Good to have you on the show this morning. So I feel like this is the hallowed chamber, and I'm the speaker since there are two honorables seated. 2019 was ushered in by a heated pre-election campaign. Like others, it was dominated by the country's two biggest parties. Even though we had names like Showore, the Magalus, and Faladro Toye. And many were expecting that all of these guys will come together to provide a formidable third force, like they call it. We all know after the election where they all stood, thereafter. But what lessons would you say that we have learned? First is the fact that perhaps we still run a two-party system in this part of the world. How do you react to that?
Well, for me, I think we should now know that this registration of all these political parties does not translate to election. So anybody can just sit down in their parlor, bring 3 or 4. I think INEC need to do a lot now to see to it that every political party look at their spread, look at what they have, instead of just having. We didn't plan for two-party system. If we are saying we want to go for two-party system, that will be fine. Since we have agreed to have a multi-party system in this country, we must also not just allow just any entry. Anybody can just come together. Even association, whatsoever association can come together and say they want to form a political party. But be that as it may, 2019 was a great year for the country. We're able to see the opinion of people being expressed at the election. 2019 election shows us that people will always vote for who they want. And
it also became apparent that elections are not won on social media. So there were people who were very popular on social media and who did not get 1%, more than 1% of the total vote cast. But do you see things change in the nearest future away from APC and PDP? There were a lot of talks about the need to bring in younger people, a formidable alternative. Is that a reality that you see forthcoming in 2023?
Is it about younger people? Is it about age or about what you have to offer? Let's ask ourselves, what's the percentage of the so-called older generation in the scheme of things in Nigeria today? Many of the local government operators will be within their 40s, 30s and 40s. Many of the members of the National Assemblies are within their 40s and 50s. And don't just take the president in isolation. One or two times such will come. I think President Buhari and Trump are of the same age. So who is talking about Trump's age? I think one should be 6 months or older than the other. So it's not about the age. It's about what you have to offer. And most of us who came in as very young people, and you get hold in the system. So until one way or the other, younger people, people come on board. You don't retire some people and say some people will just come in. You have to join in. You have to understand the game. And that's where most of the people that were playing on the social media got it wrong. You think as you have followers on the social media, that will translate into vote. What is your pedigree? We talk about politics. When the politicking starts, then you have to campaign. You have to tell people what you have done. You don't just come in as a new person. I expect someone like Shore to go into the National Assembly. Probably start from there. Make people know you. Let them see you are good as an activist. Being an activist does not make you a good administrator.
But
it's
do
very
you
easy
think
to
that
criticize.
from what we saw in the general election, after all, is it about who you are or the party you're running with? Because it looks like no matter how popular you are, you're not likely going to win elections if you do not belong to either APC or PDP.
Yes. Then if you know the vehicle is important, sometimes the vehicle makes an event because the vehicle is made up of so many stakeholders too. People who have proven themselves over time. Because you don't just win an election. In every area you have opinion leaders, your opinion molded in every area. If you come to my local government, go to some other local government, it is where most of these people gather together that you can easily win an election with. Yeah. And that's why they say election is not just about the person contesting alone. It's about other people. But sometimes the person also matters. During the time of MKO Abiola, he won for the party. Abiola won the election for the party. Once in a while, you get people to win for the party. There are some people who are bigger than even their state. They represent the country on their own. They have opinions that people actually will believe whatever even they tell them. So that was the kind of position Abiola took during his own election. So sometimes it comes that way. But what we have to be careful with now, because sometimes when you look at the constitution, as freedom of association, vis-a-vis the registration of political parties, because people go to court. You can't deprive us from having our own parties. We cannot do this, we cannot do that. Up to the level that we had over 90-something political parties. Even the ballot paper was so big and confusing. But I think they are trying to now amend. Yeah. Yes, you have freedom of association. You can have your parties at your local level. If you are only able to make a social percentage, you'll be able to contest for the state. If you are able to make another social percentage, you'll be able to contest for the national election. So it's not just for a party to come in and now say, I want to fight for the president. So sometimes some people just want to say, yes, I'm the presidential candidate, former presidential candidate.
To add to their CV. I get your point, really. So there are talks about the registering parties, especially those who did not come to the party at all. One thing that comes to mind is the party that came third during the presidential election. Very unknown party, very unknown candidate. I think it was PPP. And people are saying it's simply because it came right after the People's Democratic Party. And that's why it was able to garner over 100,000 votes to come third in that particular election.
Imagine,
but
100,000.
In 2007, I'm not sure there was such a thing as APC. It was a coming together of different parties. Yeah. Do you see some sort of gathering and merging as we count down to 2023?
I think that would be a welcome development. I think it's important that we understand that we don't just want to have political parties that the ideology is not even known to the public. People do not even understand what they stand for. People just feel that, okay, you are this, you are that, and at the end of the day, even those stronger parties could not win in election like PDP with all their Dubai strategy and whatever. it fails because Nigerians have gone beyond that. Nigerians look out for their leader. They look out for people they can trust, people that they can trust with their vote, people that they can trust with their life. So it's important that we now start looking at that direction. If another party decided tomorrow to come together, all these parties, let them come together if they can even win. Like he rightly said, in election, what wins an election is not just about the individual. It's a collective responsibility. It's a collective effort of every stakeholder within that area. Because I have my people, even if they don't want to vote for the candidate, if I talk to them, they will vote for the candidate. You understand? So that's what normally happens. But when we see people just believe that I'm an activist, I'm a musician, I'm a footballer, I want to contest an election because you see so many people coming to your show, you believe you can win an election, it's not going to happen. Because those people who are going to determine who wins might not even be your fans. They might not even believe in what you have. And those your fans that you thought they are your fans will end up voting for an opponent of yours because that opponent is whom they have associated with, is who can identify with them, is who they know, and is who their leaders, their stakeholders within that area have decided that this is the fellow that we are following.
Let's talk about the credibility of that election. So APC had 55.6%. President Buhari had over 15 million. And his PDP counterpart, Atiku Abubakar, garnered 11 million. That's about 41% of it. It was not a keenly contested one, especially when you look at how active the campaigns were before that particular exercise. Now, even after the Supreme Court judgment, the PDP still believed that it won. According to the party, it had an independent collation system where it had brandished certain figures to have been the reality of what transpired during that exercise. Now, this is not far-fetched from the way and manner the exercise was conducted, which also turns our attention again to how well our electoral process has improved over the years. So there are still pockets of violence. There were cases of ballot snatching. Not to forget that the election itself was postponed by a week just early on the election day. It happened in 2011, I believe also in 2015. How do you think that our processes when it comes to election have evolved when you look at what happened earlier this year?
Well, actually, we still have a lot to do from the registration system. We must get to a stage where we have a generally accepted card that will also serve as voter's card. The issue of needing to go to the polling centers or the registration centers every year or whenever the election is coming, and if you lose your card, you find it difficult to get another one, or you register today and you cannot get a card until maybe 2-3 months. Probably would have even left the area by that period. That's or right. When you move from one area to the other, you need to go and start doing another research. And it's very tedious getting this thing done. We know how much you would spend even doing mobilization, needing to assist people with vehicles to go to the center. Ibejuleki, just like Ekpe, is about 2/3. The two local governments together is about 2/3 of total land mass of Lagos. And imagine people needing to go to a particular center
for the
registration. So sometimes you have to cross canoe, go through Okada, go through some swampy areas, all for just registering. So if we have a generally accepted card like the NMI card that they are now doing, which will also serve as it's supposed to be a multi-purpose card. So on the day of election, registration, once you are 18, you're automatically registered. So probably just go to where you pick up your card. It's automatically done. You just put in your key in your code, and you just get the card out. So and again, issue of delineation too is also a major problem. Okay. Because many areas are growing, and most of those areas are no longer getting new registration centers. So you see how people needing to move from the area to where you have those old registration centers. So you might need to you might sometimes need vehicles to move around, and the police will tell you cannot move around with your vehicle on that day. So many people cannot even vote in Lagos because of the new areas that are growing in Lagos. So these are areas that we need to work on, and I think by next year we hope to have the new census. So if we are able to get the census done next year, we should be able to see which areas within the country that have actually grown, so that we can plan for such development.
It's talking about the need to make it easier for people to vote. The question is whether the politicians up there have the willpower, because the perception has also been that if you do all of that, then it will become a little bit more difficult to manipulate the polls when election day comes.
Why do you need to manipulate?
Well,
why do you need to manipulate?
Are you saying that we have seen less of manipulation this year?
Sure. Yes, we have. In these last elections, 2015, 2019, we have seen less manipulation taking place. And like you rightly said, a lot of things that are happening now is that people are moving. There's a huge influx of people from other parts of the country to Lagos, for instance. And development are going on in Lagos. New areas are cropping up. Unfortunately, those areas, and people move quickly in Lagos. You see somebody living in Mushin last year, this coming year is moving to Bariga. So you need to understand that those movements, and when the election comes, they won't be able to vote because they could not get their card registered. And like he said, if that can be put in place, whereby I do not even need. Now today, even in my church, I want to go for a program. I register online. I'm in my room. I register. I'm going there. My seat is reserved. That is where we should be going. If we can do that in our churches, in our programs that we do, I do program even in my foundation. We put it online. So many things like that. So when we can do that, why can't we do the same with our election? Why should I need to travel from here to Ekpe to go and do an election when I can easily do that on my phone, sitting down in Lagos?
I remember that when the issue of postponement happened earlier this year, the INEC chairman said that after all of these processes, we need to sit down and talk about reviewing our laws. Don't you think all of this burden lies on your shoulder as a lawmaker?
Yes. Unfortunately, we have not been seeing much of executive bills coming in. As lawmakers, ours is to look at what actually are brought in from agencies that deals directly with such matters. If there is need for any amendment in INEC laws, it's INEC that's supposed to come up with such amendments to say, okay, these are the problems we foresee, and these are areas we feel should be amended. So it is the executive that's supposed to be coming up with smart. Even many of our laws are even obsolete. Many, even instead of even creating breaking more new laws, I think more of the problems of Nigeria is amending most of the things we have. Look at this one that says if the total number of votes cancelled
is less than the
number of registered voters. It's not supposed to be number of registered voters for that day. It's supposed to be number of
accredited voters.
Voters.
I get your point.
Or at worst, card collected. Because you have cards collected. But when they were doing the calculation, they will use the registered voters instead of the cards collected.
So you see that when decisions like that are made, you can already tell that is not necessary.
Because if the total cards collected for this booth is 500, but the total registration is 2,000, and party A is leading with 1,200, there's no way the 500 will vote again. That you can catch up with the 1,200. But if you are looking at the 2,000 registration, which were not collected, then why are you now wasting government money, government resources to say go and run the election that the cards available in the hands of the people is just 500?
Are these issues?
Maybe that one is not even about council. Maybe the election did not hold in that area.
That's right.
On the main day, maybe the election could not hold that. So it's not about cancellation now. It's about looking at what's the available votes. If you say they should go and rerun that election, the available votes should be 500, not 2,000, because it's only 500 cards that were collected. But the laws did not talk about the collected number. It talked about the registered numbers.
Are the issues that you're talking to your colleagues about, are there amendments that is likely going to see the light of the day before the lifespan of this administration?
Sure, we're talking about, because there are still some reruns, some areas is still going. It's after the final court cases and everything that we'll be able to
be able to sit down and talk about that.
What are the total amendments we can put in place, because as you go, you're still seeing some new areas. Some that need to do with even the litigations, some that need to do with the main elections, some that need to, like the one I said about the registration, just to say, is it registered voters or card collected? Because these are two major issues.
I'll get back to you very quickly on that. Honorable Olulade,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that we saw less manipulation this year.
Yeah.
And not many people will agree with you, especially with the Bayelsa and Kogi election. The reckless abandon with which violence took over the order of the day. We saw pictures, we saw videos. In fact, there was a situation where thugs disrupted a voting process. The last time we saw that was, at least we saw that on TV, was maybe in 2011 or it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there are also the allegations of security personnel collaborating with these individuals to make this happen. So one began to think about where we're heading as a country and who is really responsible for what looks like a deterioration in that process.
Well, you just said something that is very, very important and that is key to what we are talking about here. When we talk about manipulation, now we've been able to establish that there are 40 areas in that election, the area of violence, which nobody is going to embrace or accept that we should have violence in election. So in that aspect, I think it is now, the onus is now on every one of us, especially the National Assembly members now, to go back and look at how best we can now achieve non-violence election in the country. Without a challenge, without a problem, we cannot solve anything. So for me, I know we have some areas that we still need. We have not said we have achieved it. We have not said election is perfect. We know that and like what we was talking about, they already started moving. They are collating issues that have happened within the last election so that they can now know where to go, how to address those issues. And like you have pointed out, violence is one area that they must sit down and look at and see how to resolve that area or that issue of the issue of violence in our elections.
In addition to that, you see, it takes every one of us. But as long as we reduce the incentives, for example, before the last amendment in the electoral law, if you are able to cancel, if you are able to disrupt election in an area, they will just cancel that one, that booth, and the remaining will be counted. So all you just need to do is to go out to your opponent's stronghold, disrupt the election,
disrupt elections there,
and then it will now count. It will now count for you, positively for you. But now, if you disrupt election anywhere now, they will have a rerun in that area. So now you think twice now before you even do that, because it might even give your opponent an advantage, because people that could not even make the election the first
will
time
now come out,
and they will now even know the margin.
Yes.
If it's my stronghold and you are leading me with 2,000 and we have about 4,000 registered voters in that area, all I need to do now is to now mobilize the more to ensure that my supporters actually come on that day.
That's right.
So that's an area now that will reduce any ballot snatching in some areas. Secondly, by the time we enforce the removal of this form, incident form,
that's right,
full 100%.
It means that we have to be sure that the card readers are working functionally well.
You see, how would I make responsible for that? For non-functional
card readers.
Banks, you don't go to banks and you say you put your fingers, it will not work. You go even to nightclub, they enter with their finger.
But there are some times that the ATMs do not work. So
no, ATM,
they say they are machines after all.
You see, when it comes to ATM, probably there is no money. Probably there will be a fault over long usage. Network. But you are talking an election that is going to hold for just one day, and you have 4 years to prepare for it. So INEC should not give us, even when you are registering, you have to put your finger, sometimes you clean your hands, clean before you can even get it, and you go to the bank, you do all this things seamlessly. What kind of material, equipments are they buying?
So
The
you're
federal
saying that
government is giving them so much
INEC
money.
has no excuse.
They don't have, with the money INEC is getting, you can even get some of these things done free, registration done free. Involve, you get the banks involved and some other agencies, they will do it for you free of charge. It's because we have to save money in some of these our operations.
I want us to move on very quickly. There appears to be quite a lot more to talk about, but INEC cited logistical challenges in getting electoral materials as reason for postponing that election earlier in the year. You recall that in some places the vote was even delayed to 24th February due to electoral violence. How well would you have marked INEC in that particular general election?
Well, considering what you just said now, I think they do not have any excuse for talking about logistic. If you have 4 years to plan for logistic, you must deliver. And you have the money, you have everything going on for you. You have the agency ready for you. In fact, when they talk about, I've seen cases where they use security as a means of saying there won't be an election in a particular area. I think we shouldn't buy that any longer. People must understand that the election must take place. They must plan very well. In our local elections, even on CDAs and CDCs, we do election, we plan for it. And it comes out, even in schools. I was one of the guests the other time in Lasso, where they use electronic voting. And within few minutes, the winner have been announced. So if they can do
Yes.
that as students, I don't think any the chairman of INEC or anybody in INEC should come and give us any excuse.
Let's take a break and then return with more. But do House of Reps members use the electronic voting during the passage of bills now? We understand that there was a system installed in the House.
Yes,
where
we have.
Do you currently use it?
Yes.
Because we still hear you say the highs, do the highs have it or
you
delays?
see, when it comes to some issues that you need to narrow it down to every member, then the electronics
Then you have to
come
use
in.
it. All right, so there's still a lot to talk about. There's the issue of constituency project, the hate speech and social media bill. And also remember that, well, quite a number of things to talk about. Let's take a break now and return. And when we come back, we'll also open the phone lines for your contributions. Stay with us. And thanks for staying with us. We're looking at those big stories that shaped 2019. And it's been an interesting conversation with my guest in the studio this morning. A member of the House of Reps representing the Beduleki Federal Constituency, Honorable Bayo Balogun, is here with me, as well as Honorable Shegun Olulade. Did I get that? Former member representing Ekpe Constituency 2, Lagos House of Assembly. Gentlemen, thank you for staying the course on the program this morning. So let's talk about your famous hate speech and social media bill that was proposed at the Senate this year. And they have sharply divided Nigerians. So Nigerians are very angry. They are saying that, why now? The two bills are the National Commission for the Prohibition of Hate Speech Bill and the Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulation, as well as other related offenses bill, currently being worked on by the Senate. Now, there's a section of there are many provisions in this bill that do not meet international human rights standards. That's what many people are saying. So, for example, there's Section 4 of the Hate Speech Bill that prohibits abusive, threatening, and insulting behavior, which many say it's open to very wide interpretation, especially the way and manner Nigerians use social media. So the fear is that it could be a way not only to gouge the media, but to also penalize opposition. What is your personal opinion about this development in the course of the year?
You see, I believe you'll be able to trust us in this night assembly. Immediately the bill came up, the proposal came up, and people, even in the National Assembly, some of those sections were addressed immediately, and even the worst part was the death penalty that was stated as one of the things. So immediately it was presented. During the next reading, many of those clauses were already been removed, and I think by the end of the day, the whole thing would have watered down to what it's supposed to be. And don't let us put too much energy on this matter, because it's just someone's presentation. That is not representation of the National Assembly. It's a presentation by a member,
You know
a
that
senator, to say this is, but at the end of the day, he withdrew some of those clauses himself, not even at the committee level.
I will tell you where the fear is coming from. So Nigerians perceive a working relationship between the executive and this ninth assembly, unlike what transpired in the eighth assembly. Many will say that is what is responsible for the passage of the 2020 budget, the first time in a long time that we'll return to the January-December cycle. We've seen a return of that $30 billion loan that was rejected by the previous assembly. Of course, the Senate President is saying that it's going to be passed. So Nigerians are saying, well, it looks like everything there is in this assembly now flies.
Let me give you this. You see, presentation of these bills, just like the budget, is just a proposal. If you're talking about the loan, it's a proposal. It's a loan for over, I think it's about, it's a 10-year period of drawing down. It's not just a loan we are granting for this year. It's a loan for a long period. It's a medium plan loan.
Okay, so
it's not
all
just
of the
for
monies
this year.
won't come
No, it's not
in the
this,
next 3 years.
Just
okay.
Not just this year. So it's a long term thing. So now it's one thing is for the executive to present their bills, either this loan or the budget itself. As long as it is okay, as long as you can defend it, we have no problem with it. The problem will come during the oversight when you would have spent part of this money. I will now be asking you how you spent the money. That's when you know that there is no friendship between the executive and the legislature.
Okay,
so we have to do our job, but we do have to be antagonistic. We do have to see a good project and say no, it will not work. That is not being patriotic.
Let me have your opinion on this. So they're saying, what some are saying is these bills are likely byproducts of what some have called a growing attack on human rights. Now, there's a retinue of disobedience to court orders by this administration. No one can shy away from that. Yeah. There is the incarceration of Omoyele Sowore. Just recently, there was an executive order to release him, as well as the former National Security Advisor. There is still Agba Jalingo, Jones Abiri, and the list is endless. That's perhaps where the anger of the people are coming from. Yeah. Would you say you understand that?
Well, I understand the feelings of Nigerians. I understand the fears. I understand their perception of how things should be run and how it's being run. But we must also give it to the National Assembly this time around. We've not had it so good this way in the last 16 years or whatsoever that we've had different leadership at the National Assembly. We are talking about the budget coming up now. They passed the budget, so the budget have been signed
assented by the president.
By the president.
Yes.
So we know come January 1st, we can start running a budget for Nigeria. Now, coming to the issue of the social media thing that you also mentioned, and like you have said, at times when we react, it's good. And it's good for Nigerians to always, if you see anything, please express your opinion. That is why we have a government. And they have shown high level of responsibility by responding to those hard cries of Nigeria. So we should give them the opportunity to conclude with that law. That law will help us as a country.
Please let me hold you for a minute, Honorable, to take Reverend Dominic's call. He's been holding on for a while. Good morning, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Femi.
Glad to have you around. Please go ahead.
Compliments of the season.
Wish you the same.
and good morning to your great guest.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Let me say this, Femi. There are two things that make sense to me this year. One is the attitude of the members of National Assembly to pass the budget on time. When people say because they passed the budget on time, they were stood to executive. The question you ask yourself, since 1999, the executive and the legislature have been fighting. What product, what gain have we got? Have we got better infrastructure? Have we got better road? To me, if they're doing it, you don't pass it tomorrow. It could be better to me. So let's know who to hold accountable. So the National Assembly have done excellently well. That's by the side. Femi, number two is what to call the electoral violence. The two gentlemen sitting before you are people to blame. I'm sorry to say this. As long as the politicians' attitudes are not right, their followers' attitude will not be right. Because the boys that went to catch and break somebody's head and pick the box have nothing to lose or to win. They're not contesting the election. They're not in National Assembly. They're not going to go to State Assembly. They just want to send them to go and break down somebody's head and hurt him and, tear the Bible bus. So it is the politicians to blame. And anytime we begin to see politicians going to prison for that attitude, it will be less. That's by the way. Femi, you say it's long time we saw breaking of Bible bus. In 2019, in Okota here, we saw a police officer helpless, fighting boys who were breaking Bible bus. I pitied that police officer, and nobody helped him. It was 5 left and right, and this boy is making jest of him. But that's our electoral system. Number 3, what makes sense to me to this year is this, that APC and Buhari I voted, I have certified that I voted them. Why? I've seen Ojikalo, who stole our money in other states, in prison now. So he's come at home, trying to laugh at us.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution. I'm not also sure that this administration can take all of the glory for that, because this case has been on for 12 years. They did not even begin the investigation and all of that. But we'll leave that to another day.
But the administration can manipulate. If it were the other administration that will.
I agree with you.
But if government can say, if the federal government can allow justice to take place, even with our own party man,
coming to APC.
Yes.
with somebody who is also a chief whip at the Senate, it shows the readiness, the credibility, the integrity.
And it's not even the first sitting lawmaker.
Not the first. That have done. I mean, so it shows that wherever you are, we are saying no to corruption as far as this country is concerned.
Let's talk about constituency projects, which also made news this year. Nigerians are asking, what exactly are you doing with their money? Let me understand your understanding of this concept and your first-hand experience, with these projects.
Yeah, we're talking about constituency projects. We believe at this we have 360 House of Rep members. We have 109 senators. These are the people representing constituencies and senatorial districts in Nigeria. We have just about, I think about 30 something or less than 40 ministers.
Okay.
So when you are putting up the budget, you don't have enough people representing the whole of Nigeria in the executive. But we have more people representing the whole of Nigeria in the National Assembly.
Okay.
So the Minister for Works cannot just sit in Abuja and know all the road networks in Nigeria that needs attention or that can even prioritize. The Minister of Agric cannot know every part in Nigeria that needs. It's the tendency for him to want to tilt more to his own area, like we do in Nigeria. So if everybody, as a representative of your area, because our job is to make laws and represent our people. So what we are saying is, okay, as legislators, you know what are the major projects you need in your area, and also for spread, because you might have the gigantic projects by the federal government, but if you do have the micro ones within every constituency, you might end up doing your whole 4 years without a project not coming to some areas at all. Now,
yes.
What the constituency project now is about is that for you to nominate
Okay.
projects for your area.
Do they pay you the money directly?
No, it is
How
the
does it work?
agencies. When you nominate,
Yes.
the projects will now be put into appropriate agencies that will do it.
Okay.
If I nominate a road now, is it that if it's rehabilitation, you go to FEMA. If it is construction, you go to Ministry of Works. If it's something on
Yes.
agric, you go to agric. So at the end of the day, what they do is when the person who is supposed to now do the job, who is nominated by the ministry and the agencies,
Okay.
they must get in touch with you.
Let me hold you for a
that-
minute. We'll get back to this because it's a very interesting one. Is Bob still there from Jos? I'm so sorry, Bob. We left you on air. I'm online for a while. Keep trying. We're going to take time to take those calls. So I am actually concerned now about. Okay, so you nominate a project.
You nominate the project. So when the ministry or agencies that is in charge of that project that you nominated wants to execute it, they must get in touch with you. Whoever is supplying or consulting will get in touch with you so that to know the location and all the.
I think the concern of Nigerians
now
have been how well these projects have been executed over the years.
Now let me give my own example now. In my own constituency, outboard engines were supplied to my constituency. When I saw the LPO, it reached 7 horsepower. And I look at my people fish on the Atlantic Ocean,
which is not equipped enough to serve them.
It cannot work. I had to tell the supplier, you have 2 options. It's either you return this LPO and tell them that this will not work in the area you are given to supply, or you have to supply a minimum of 30 horsepower.
How did that go?
Going to get into your own profit or whatever.
Yes.
But if you want me to argument, I don't mind. But I will not risk the life of my people to go to the sea.
Did you get a 30 horsepower?
Inshallah.
Let's take Bob's.
I got the 30 horsepower
Bob's
with
call
the
from
same
Jos.
number of items.
And you had to give him some more money.
No, never asked anything, but the supplier to forgo part of their profit, because if they are supposed to cost you 2 naira and they are supposed to cost you 3 naira, then probably the profit will be 350 before.
Let's take Bob's call now from Jos. Good morning, Bob.
How are you? I'm not too happy with you the way you are burning my credit. My credit has almost finished now.
So sorry about that.
Before I get linked to you.
You have
Happy
the
New
floor
Year.
now, so take your.
I'm not happy with you. You have burned my credit throughout.
Well,
My
I'm so
credit has
sorry.
finished because I want to call you.
We are
It's not
sorry.
fair. You understand me?
You have the
listen
floor
when,
now,
when
Bob.
you give the opportunity for people to call. You listen to where you can get us.
Bob, before
and
your
then
credit
we-
finishes
Not to share
now,
with you.
I thought you would
Honestly
use the
speaking,
Everybody take
opportunity
time.
to contribute now.
You can't keep us waiting because we want to contribute on the program. It's not fair.
All right, I think you made your point. Thank you for calling, Bob. Now let's get back to this conversation. The issue of how your constituents now respond to how much has been spent. Is there a system that helps them? I mean, that helps for transparency and accountability, such that the people for which the projects are being implemented are in the know?
You see, now we have this system called the tracker that goes around the constituencies, seeing what is being done, and it's there for us too, because it's also online too. They will publicize every project in every area, just like they've just done for the local government. I think for the past few days now, all allocation collected by all the local government from January to November have been published in the newspaper, and it's online. So it's for us to, we must learn to find out things.
Okay.
It's not until we just shouting at freedom of information, freedom of freedom of FOI bill,
Yes.
freedom of information bill. Even the information available to us, are we using it?
Let's take Michael's
Get
call.
information,
Yes.
ask questions. I am saying what is happening in my own constituency now. They said they should supply some horsepower. I said no, it must be 30. If anybody come to me today, I will put it online. If it's
Then
even
you'll
go to be
able
online.
defend it. Let's take Michael's call very quickly from Unilag. Good morning, Michael. Michael, are you there? I think your TV is on. Can you switch off your TV, Michael?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead with your contribution.
Hello.
Go ahead, Michael. We're with you.
Hello.
I think there's
Hello.
there is a feedback problem. We can't take that. There's so much delay. Let me come to you very quickly. So there's so much talk about the cordial relationship between the executive and the Ninth Assembly. Of course, when you look at the budget, the speed at which it was passed tells us that some of the challenges we've had in the past has been more political than really, addressing the matters. Because we heard the president said he might even still return with some vehement that he wasn't quite pleased with how the lawmakers have added some money to the budget, and he might be asking them to, channel it to some other areas of the economy. But how do we have this kind of relationship without being a rubber stamp on everything the executive brings to the table?
You see, when we talk about rubber stamp legislator, I laugh at most of the time when people are talking about this, especially when we have a cordial relationship. You see, what is working for us in Lagos State today is the fact that the legislator and the executive over the years have always been able to sit down, to rub mind, to be on the same page on every issue. When we have issues, it's not that we don't have issues. We come together to look at it, the executive and the legislature, okay, this is what you are bringing, but this won't go. This will go because it is going to benefit all. And like he was talking about, I also want to talk about the constituency project, because the constituency project people are talking about, it's not just about constituency project. If not for that constituency project, some constituency will never have seen anything from the federal government. And the same thing, I was on your station before, where I was agitating that even the issue of giving slot for employment should be given to the members.
I'm going to have to hold you very quickly. Benga has called in from Abuja. Good morning, Benga.
Good morning, gentlemen there.
Good morning to you.
Benga.
Yes, in the news this year, and it's still going on, is the fact that government want to borrow about $30 billion. And those who have opposed this borrowing, they have not told us an alternative. They have not provided alternatives to the lack of infrastructure that we have, which our revenue cannot really fund. And we can't achieve that development, which are really affecting our economy, without borrowing. Because if you say we should not borrow, where do we go? Because of that infrastructure that we have, rail, power, road, and the rest of things, it has affected investment, it has affected employment and our economy. Now to revive the economy and to make this better, for example, no investor will want to spend 30 days to carry something from Papa Walk to Kano by truck. And these are destroying our roads. So what I'm saying is that those who are opposed to this borrowing, let us come out with another alternative.
All right, Benga.
Which government can get money to be able
I think you made your
fund
point
this
quite well. Thank you so much for calling in.
I want to
We
appreciate what Benga just said. And because today we see a government, over the year we've been seeing people carrying Ghana must go to the National Assembly. But this time around we are not seeing such happening. We see a government that is transparent. We see a government that is accountable. We see a government that have integrity, that people can even trust. He has told us the $30 billion loan is even not money we are getting at a go. It's going to be spread as they do these projects, and you complete at this rate, we give you more money to conclude it. And we're talking about infrastructural deficit in this country. We must do something. Some people have taken our money away. They travel all over the world, stash our money all over the world, across the globe. But we are seeing a leader that is saying no to that now. We're seeing a leader that is transparent enough to show us that this is what comes in to the local government. This is what the National Assembly are going to be giving to each of the constituencies for constituency projects. I, as an individual, as a private citizen, it's now my responsibility to challenge those who we have put into office.
But you agree with me that Nigerians need to know more about this proposed borrowing. For instance,
yes,
the former president...
let me tell you about this.
Yes.
But in fact, it's an aggregation of various loans. The $30 billion. It's not just one tranche thing. Probably maybe 2.5 billion for road, 3-point-something billion for rail, coming from different banks, coming from different countries. So it's the summation of all these different, and all of them are not coming at a same period. So we need to get a breakdown. That's why we say some of these things we don't even want to find out about what is happening. If they go through the breakdown of all these loans, they will now see. And now most of the loans now are now project attached. It's not just we got 30 billion for what? 3 billion is good for this. We will be able to now check. After the second year, when you feel that project is supposed to be done, once the money is drawn, you expect that same project to have been done. So our loans now are going to be project attached. And lastly, coming back to where you spoke about the role of the legislators. You see, these constituency projects, what some of us don't even know, because it's usually causing crisis with some of our members too. We have is a ₦1 billion per state envelope. Okay. Lagos State now has 24 members, so it's 1 billion naira divided by 24. A state like Bayelsa that has about 6.
It's the same amount for
all the
every
states.
state.
So the state like Bayelsa has just 6 members or so. So they are going to get about 200, almost 200, 100 and something million naira envelope for projects to be cited in their community. So if I have 50-something million naira now, and I go to my state and I say, okay, this is a project, and someone will say, I have a friend in Bayelsa, it's constituency project, he built a whole house, and you are just buying just some few materials.
Gentlemen, we'll have to continue this conversation some other time because of time. Yes.
The relationship between the executive and the legislature. Just like in Lagos, during Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and that's what he started, ensuring that it is when you have a good relationship between the legislature and the executive that you can have the nation move forward. And that's why we started the executive legislative parley. Okay. You must have executive parley, because before you talk about the budget, we must have discussed most of these things.
Know, the challenge I have this morning is that I have two honorables who talk for a living.
Sorry,
we have to go now.
Lastly,
so I'm just going to give you 30 seconds. Yes.
Lastly,
yes.
Media.
Yes.
You are. I must give it to TVC for giving us a platform to tell the world what is happening. Instead of just sending everything. That's what is causing a lot of problem.
If we call you again,
social media,
I'm sure you will come, because there's a lot to talk about. All of these things happen in the course of a year, so 1 hour might not be enough. Honorable Segun Ololade, Honorable Bayo Balogun, I really appreciate you for coming, and thank you so much for making it. Apologies to Bob. I mean, we've been taking your calls all this while. I'm wondering why you got angry because we didn't take it today. We'll be expecting you to call again tomorrow, but it's a show. It's a live situation. I expect that you understand. A big thank you to all of you who watched. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. See you again tomorrow.